Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of the Cork It podcast. My name is Kyle Schwieger. I'm joined here. We'll go down the line.
JJ Boffman.
Nico Genovese.
Dante Ellison.
And we are so excited to get talking about some sports, some lifestyle, pop culture, all that jazz. So first off, let's go around the league real quick. Yesterday, University of South Carolina Gamecocks win the women's national title against UConn with a score 64-49. Aaliyah Boston, 11 points, 16 boards. That's crazy.
Jeez.
That is insane. Especially,
I mean, that's a way to bounce back from last year. She missed the game-winning shot last year. That's 16 boards in the championship.
Add on to that, Destani Henderson, career high 26 points during that game. What a way to turn up for your team when they need it most.
That was Henderson's only 20-plus point night, too.
For the whole season?
Yeah, so to bring it in the championship's crazy.
I mean, what a way to turn things up.
Yeah.
And then the fact is, I think one thing that the Gamecock defense really honed in on was denying Paige Beckers the ball. She ended with 14. Not a horrible night, but it showed in the box score, the effect that they had honing in on Paige defensively. So this is the first ever UConn loss in the finals under their head coach. So that's crazy. They were 11-0 before this championship game. That is insane. South Carolina also becomes the 8th team to win multiple championship titles, and that's their second one that they just grabbed. That's the only 8th team in women's NCAA history to have more than one title.
Jeez,
that's crazy. What else? Around the league, NBA, the Lakers took an L to the Nuggets, inching closer to missing the play-in. Getting so much closer to missing the play-in. We saw Russ 27-10-7, AD with 28-9-8, but it was the Joker with 38-18-6 taking the W. That's tough.
They just couldn't get a stop when they needed one.
What do you think goes through from a Lakers fan's perspective? Let me hear this. What's your thoughts on the head coaching situation benching Reeves for the game?
I just think he doesn't know what to do in close game situations. Like, Reeves he's a rookie, yes, but he's one of our best shooters that we have right now. Like, Russell Westbrook's a great player, but if I need a three, I'm not going to him. And yeah, you have Monk who can really shoot the three well, but I don't get benching Reeves in a close game situation when you need some points on the board. I mean, he's been playing great all year. I wouldn't say he's a top rookie, but he's a good role player for what the Lakers have right now.
And I mean, he was having an impact on the floor when he was there, and not playing him in a must-win game.
Yeah, he's a hustle player.
So inching closer to the end of the playoffs, I'm pretty sure Spurs have to lose three of their next four.
Somehow, if the Lakers can win out, then
yeah. But the Spurs they've got a tough last 4 games.
Yeah, and the Spurs do have the tiebreaker. So the Spurs do have the tiebreaker. So if they finish with the same record, then Spurs make the play-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you. I got you. Yeah, but it'll be tough. It's a tough road for the Lakers coming up here for the next, see if they make the play-in, but we'll see what happens. Other things in the NBA, we saw KD get his career-high 55 points, and they still couldn't get the job done against the Hawks. Trae Young, 36-10, spoiled KD's 55-point night. I'm going to be honest, I was surprised that was his career high. I mean, I think I knew it, a while ago that his career high wasn't super high, but it was definitely very interesting to see that it was only 55 is now his career high. But great night for him nonetheless. We saw Coach K's run come to an end against UConn in the Final Four.
UConn.
Or not UConn, excuse me. UNC, yeah. UNC in the Final Four. I'm going to be honest, I was surprised Duke made it that far. I had them as an early exit.
I knew they were going to make that far, but I didn't think they'd lose to
I wanted them to win. I like Coach K personally. Just didn't want to see his career end on losing to a rival.
Yeah. I mean, his final 2 losses were to UNC.
Yeah, that's true. The regular season as well.
His first career loss was to UNC, too.
I didn't know that either.
Interesting. Coach K can't perform.
JJ coming in with some historical facts for this podcast. Not only that, we saw another men's basketball news. Tad Mata at Butler.
I didn't even know he was still coaching, bro.
He wasn't. He was out of the league.
Retirement again.
He pulled an Urban.
But I know Jeff Bowles, Ohio University head coach, was in running for that job. So looks like he's set to return to OU unless something else comes along. But Dad Mata, interesting hire. Going back to Butler to go back coaching. USA qualified for the World Cup. Yeah, that's exciting. But looking at their group, they've got England in that group with them. So that'll be a fun matchup to watch. Not only that, but here's the best news of all. It is now Masters Week. I know you guys are all golf fans.
Big golf fans, yeah.
Huge golf fans over here in this room. You can tell. So, yeah, that's around the league. Just a little intro to some stuff going around in sports over the past weekend or so. So let's dive in here. So we're recording this on Monday at 6:15. It's 6:15 right now, Monday. So by the time this comes out Tuesday, the UNC-Kansas game will be all but wrapped up. So let's take a little look. I want to hear some of your guys' predictions and picks for this game. Let's start with JJ and kind of work our way around here.
I think that a lot of people are riding high on UNC just because they've kind of got the storybook, or they just have the good story going with them. But Kansas, they're favored for the game, I think, by 4.5 or something like that. They've got the fifth best adjusted offense efficiency in Division I, and they've got the 14th best adjusted defense efficiency, whereas North Carolina, they've only got the 17th offense efficiency rating and the 35th defensive efficiency. So for me personally, I think either North Carolina wins a close game or Kansas will just outscore them.
I think that's a very good take, JJ.
I agree with that.
All right, I think that's a good take. Nico, what are your thoughts now?
Yeah, I got Kansas winning. I mean, like he said, I think a lot of people are like, oh, UNC is hot right now, so they'll come and swing against Kansas, and they believe they can do it. But don't get me wrong, I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think Kansas is going to blow them out, but I mean, just the way Kansas has been playing good team basketball, they've been doing really good in this tournament. And, I mean, their defense has been doing pretty good. They're only allowing 60, and they're scoring 78. So I think the keys for them would just be slowing down their bigs, making sure they have less offensive rebounds, and just crash the board so they can get those fast break points and just play how they've been playing. I think Kansas is going to take it.
That's good. Dante, let's hear it.
I agree with both of them. Yeah, Kansas against Villanova, they got out. They started really hot. I think they were up when I was watching it, they were up 12 in the first 5 to 10 minutes. And I just don't see UNC keeping up with them. They have two really good big men to grab the boards. And I feel like everyone's just bandwagoning on UNC, so I'm going to go Kansas in this one.
Alrighty. I'm actually going to stray away from this, what you guys are saying right now. I do think UNC can win this game. I think what we saw from Caleb Love was electric, and same with Bassett. Assuming he'd be healthy, but, him going down with that injury certainly didn't help them, assuming he plays or not. Also, for Kansas, one thing that was huge was McCormick's game. Mm-hmm. I mean, he came out of nowhere with that 25-point game. I think, you could slow that down against, a matchup like Manic down low or something like that. I think it'll be interesting. I definitely do think it's within UNC. This is Kansas's game to lose, in my opinion. I think Kansas should be the favorite upright, but I do think that UNC can definitely pull away with this game. Yeah. We see all during March Madness. Anything can happen. It's all about momentum. I think that either of these teams can get a W tomorrow night, but I think I'm gonna go with UNC. And I know I've got some friends that are rooting hard on Kansas. One of my buddy Isaac's from Kansas, grew up there, and he's rooting hard for these Jayhawks. But I'm gonna have to go UNC for this game. A little stray away from the what you guys are going with, but I do think UNC is gonna take it. But we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, for me, the difference, at least with how I've seen the teams play, is that Kansas doesn't necessarily rely on one or two of their players going off to either keep it a close game or just like win a game. Where in comparison, Kansas, even though they'll have guys like have big games, as a whole, they don't necessarily rely on that to make or break the game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's like, again, Kansas is just a good team basketball. Like, they have guys who do average like 18, 14, but the rest are kind of like in that 2 to 3 difference, like 11, 10, and 8, and then the rest of the team. I mean, it's low, but I mean, it's still pretty like average and consistent. There's not, like JJ said, an average, like depending on the guy, to average 20, 25 to carry their team. It's all just team basketball, and they all play their part.
Yeah, I mean, that is one big thing that I think UNC does differently is their scoring isn't as spread out as, Kansas per se. I mean, it's really centralized within the, main 4 guys on that team. But it'll be interesting to see how they perform tonight at, 9?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I think we have an intramural soccer game during that, but we'll catch the score afterwards and we'll see what happens.
Following it.
So let's move a little bit away from college basketball and
to some
move towards some
professional
professional basketball. So NBA playoff preview. So right now, obviously things aren't set, but we don't have the matchups yet. But there are teams that have been making names for themselves here at the end of the regular season, winning games. Some teams are sliding, some teams are losing games. So I want to go around here, and first off, I just want to see who you've been impressed with in these last couple weeks, and then we'll get into contender versus pretender, where we talk about who we think can be a contender and who we think is going to fall apart. So JJ, first off, player, team, who have you been impressed with in the last couple weeks?
Genuinely really been impressed with the Grizzlies. Like, to be playing without Ja for a good amount of games and still be taking on like playoff teams and either handling them or just winning close games, and not necessarily just falling off because Ja's out, has been really surprising. It just shows how well organized they are and how well coached they are. And I mean, I think it makes them really scary for the playoffs if and when Ja comes back from injury. Outside of that, I mean, Jokic, for me, he's been phenomenal. All season. So, to not have what most would consider his number 1 and 2 option, or number 2 and 3 options playing. I mean, Murray's been out the entire season, and Michael Porter Jr. has only played 9 games this season, and he's still putting up really good numbers. He's really just been impressive. Outside of that, there hasn't been anyone that's really stood out to me. I thought it was surprising that the Heat have been able to hold on to the 1 seed in the East. But outside of that, nothing too surprising.
Nico?
I'm going to tell you, I guess they're the number 1 seed, but I've been really impressed with Devin Booker and the Suns because even without Chris Paul, they're winning games. They're 11-4 without Chris Paul. And D-Book he's been phenomenal. He's been leading the Suns team to stay in that 1 seed spot, leading them to victory. And that's why, I mean, a lot of people thought, including me at the beginning, I thought CP3, that was kind of the key because he's a veteran, huge playmaker, knows what to do, one of the most highest, basketball IQs in the game. But I'm surprised that the Suns are still doing that well without him. So I feel like in the playoffs, if he comes back or if he doesn't, I still think the Suns are going to make a big push just because they've been playing good team basketball and Devin Booker has been going off. So I've been really impressed with him.
Dante?
I have 2 teams I'm actually really been surprised with. One is the Dallas Mavericks. Luka obviously leads that team, but as a team, they've been playing great basketball as a whole, and they've propelled themselves into 4th in the Western Conference and clinched a playoff berth. So once you think about the Dallas Mavericks, I really don't think of anyone else other than Luka. So I think it's pretty impressive that he has that team at 4. And then the Boston Celtics of the Eastern Conference, they're the 2nd seed, and I guess they're catching fire at the right time going into the playoffs.
I do agree with that.
I was just
Sucks,
about to one of my teams I had picked was the Boston Celtics. Do you have anyone else to add?
Nope, that's
Alrighty.
it.
So I'm gonna go into mine. My pick was the Boston Celtics as a team that I'm impressed with. They're 13-3 since the All-Star break. And this team just, sprung themselves up into second place in the Eastern Conference. And I'm going to be honest with you, I honestly thought this was going to be a play-in team, the way they were playing at the start of the season.
They were doing terrible.
They were horrible. They were losing games down the stretch. Tatum and Brown weren't gelling together. They just were not winning games. And I thought they were going to end up between 7 and 10. I didn't think they'd miss the playoffs, but I thought they would end up 7 to 10. And for this team to go crazy, catch fire at the right time, as you said, Dante, and jump all the way to the second seed, I was very impressed by that. In the Western Conference, I think Grizzlies without Ja, no doubt. I mean, the fact that you could be without your star player and have one of the highest win percentage for a team, ever, based on the games that they played without him, I was very impressed with. Another team, this is a little bit of a sleeper team that I was impressed with. I was impressed with the Timberwolves a little bit.
They have been picking it
because
up.
I'm gonna be honest, I thought they would be on the bubble and the play-in and stuff like that, but now I mean they're going they're racing with the Jazz for the 6th seed. Like the fact that they could get into the actual playoffs, not have to worry about a play-in and facing teams like the Clippers, the Pelicans, Spurs, Lakers, and they can just get in. I was very impressed with them in the last couple of weeks. Anthony Edwards has been playing great. Karl-Anthony Towns always been playing great. D'Angelo Russell is really finding his role on that team. I'm very impressed with them, and I'm excited to see what they do forward. I know we talked about teams we're impressed with. Is there any team that you are kind of feeling, like you've been, I don't want to say unimpressed, but disappointed with their last couple weeks?
I think the Bulls. I just feel like the Bulls had such a hot start. Everyone was really high on DeRozan. Don't get me wrong, DeRozan's still playing fantastic, but like people were thinking, oh, Bulls are going to be title contenders with how well Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine were playing together. And I just feel like recently they haven't been doing their best. What are they, like 0-15 against top 3 teams?
Yeah, they cannot get a win against top teams.
If you want to be considered as a good playoff team, good title contender, you can't consistently lose to top teams in the West and East. It's just like, so I feel like with them, it's just, I was really high on them on the beginning of the season, and I love DeMar DeRozan, so I was happy for him. But lately, it's just like I don't see them going far in the playoffs or doing that well, making a big push.
JJ, any players or teams that you've been disappointed with?
I'd have to say the Jazz. I think coming off last season, or at least the past couple seasons of just being like a really good team, well organized, and to have Donovan Mitchell just like up and coming. Not necessarily that any of them or the team as a whole is like bad. It just kind of feels like they've been quiet, and I feel like there were higher expectations for them, and they just really haven't lived up to it.
Dante?
The one team that comes to mind when I think of disappointing is the Lakers.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, you can't fully blame it on injuries, but AD's been out a lot. LeBron's been out a lot.
Want to know what I blame it on?
Coaching
And management.
Yeah.
I just feel like you can't have 3 All-Stars, 3 future Hall of Famers, and not be able to 4 future Hall of Famers with Bello.
Carmelo Anthony, 4th.
And not build a good team around them. Like, don't get me wrong, yeah, Frank Vogel, you can say he's a good coach because he won a championship with the Lakers, but he has, right now, I would say 3 All-Stars and 4 future Hall of Famers, and him and the management weren't able to build anything around them because, yeah, LeBron James, best basketball player of all time, but he needs some decent role players to make a push, and he just doesn't have that.
I'm a huge believer that the Lakers' struggles lies within their management, but at the same time, I'm, in a realistic standpoint, it's tough to see what they can do with those contracts because obviously, like LeBron's, Westbrook's, and AD's contract, amount for like 90% of the Lakers' cap space. So it is tough to, find that. But, they found good signings in Malik Monk, right? They got Melo for cheaper. But I do think that you could have been able to find good role players to buy into this cheaper deal than you were. And I love the Chris Nunn signing if he was healthy, right? If he played, right? I would have loved that. But I don't love the fact that they didn't even try to go out to get a center in the offseason. They didn't even try to go get a good like power forward or big man, because right now, I mean, to back up AD, or he's been hurt this whole season. You've got Dwight Howard. You had LeBron starting at center
with a washed Dwight Howard and at the time a washed DeAndre Jordan at center. Against these young top centers like Cat or DeAndre Ayton, you can't expect them to do well and actually be a good center for the team.
I also didn't love the fact that they made no moves at the trade deadline. I think that was, especially because LeBron and Anthony Davis were under the impression that they would make moves at the trade deadline, and the management and the front office didn't feel like that was worth it.
To go back on the Kendrick Nunn wave, I just don't know how he's like not playing. Like I'm just saying, like, it seems a little bit suspicious to me because like they say it's a bone bruise. Like, I don't know if it's just like the management not like, I mean, I doubt it, but like I just don't
intentionally not playing him.
Yeah, I mean, like, a bone bruise for the whole year?
You think he would just like let that happen?
There has to be something.
Like,
Dante's got a conspiracy brewing right now. I can see it.
You think he's just like sitting around,
it just seems weird to me.
I'm not actually injured, but they say it's a bro.
I mean, I agree with that though, but I mean,
with this
type of stuff, you can't really tell because I mean, a bone bruise could be really painful. I've never experienced one, so you don't really know if he can fully play or not.
Yeah, no, my biggest issue with the Lakers organization has definitely been management. Because I mean, if we look back to the past offseason, while obviously Russ is an all-time great player, I think he's first ballot Hall of Fame. I don't think that's like should be a question. But to me, I don't think he was ever a great fit for the Lakers, injuries or not. Like, if best case situation, to have Russ at his best and have LeBron and AD at all their best, when they're like they conflict with each other, I feel like Russ plays his best when he's like ball dominant and he's like making a lot of the decisions and just being Russ. And that, to me, that conflicts with how LeBron and AD play just a little bit. Not to say that they couldn't have made it work, but I'm saying to get the best out of each of those players, I just didn't think he was a great fit.
Yeah, I agree with that. And when we signed him, I did love the signing because, I mean, it's Russell Westbrook who won it like that. Mm-hmm. But I like you said, I kind of knew they weren't going to be a great fit. But I just feel like, again, that goes with coaching because, like you said, Russ is a ball-dominant player. He needs to be the playmaker. They didn't have Russ as the primary point guard or primary playmaker. Yes, you have LeBron James, don't get me wrong. He's going to be a primary playmaker. But if you have Russell Westbrook, I totally believe that you can have him as the primary point guard, primary ball handler, and try to get LeBron James as more of a scoring role. Because, I mean, that's what a lot of the talk was before the season started was, okay, Russ will be point guard. Russ is going to be the playmaker. LeBron James can now focus on scoring. Let Russ set it up. That's what he did with KD. That's what he did with great scorer like Paul George. Yeah. Let Russ set up the playmaker, be the floor general, and have LeBron as a scorer.
And we've seen Russell Westbrook's stats in the last eight or 9 games. He's been doing a lot better. He's been providing a lot more. And I think it's because he is taking on that more ball handling, ball dominant role.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the biggest problem going into the season was trying to find how they like meshed together. And like obviously there was going to be headbutting, but then what stalled that process was LeBron going out for a week or two, and then AD going out for a week or two. Like, so I think the overall problem was management making decisions that just didn't make sense, and then for it to just snowball with not having a coach who was able to really figure out how they fit together. And then to make that problem even worse, the injuries that kept coaches or even the players from figuring out what the best fit for them was.
Yeah.
And I do think that the fit comes into play. I will say in that, Russell Westbrook has at least found his fit. We've seen his stats, improve.
Yeah.
But they're still not winning games.
No, they're
So
not.
there's
They're
a
bad
deeper
team.
problem.
They're a bad team.
The winning games again is just they don't have any good role players. They don't have a team.
No,
They
don't.
have
Most of
three guys who are really good. They got Melo has his occasional 25 game, 20 game, but I'm not saying Melo's a top option. And then Monk was a good signing. Who else do you have as a good role player that can get you 10, 11 a night, 12 a night?
You don't.
You don't.
And Melo went 1 for 7 from 3 last game. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna have more of those games down his career than his 25 points.
Yeah.
Point games.
Yeah, I agree.
Whole lot of issues with the
There,
Los Angeles
there is a whole
Lakers.
lot of issues, and
I feel like it's gonna be.
Hopefully we can do something in the offseason this year. Don't think we're making the playoffs or play-ins. So.
You'll be able to move Russ. You'll be able to move AD, but I don't know what you're gonna get back.
Just
Actually,
something.
Russ will probably walk, if I'm being honest.
Oh yeah, he's not.
Does he have the player option?
It's
Is he
player
supposed to be-
option, but
Why we want to
He has
stay?
1 more year.
he has one more year. But he could either stay in LA, get ridiculed for another season, or take a cheaper option in a market that actually enjoys him being there and could potentially compete. I would like to see him back on the Wizards, if
I
I'm being
think
honest.
Him and Bradley Beal were
I think the
great
only-
together.
Factor, unless there's like a trade, the only factor for Russ would be just like his outside of basketball situation. I mean, with him growing up in
His
LA
family there
and
too.
like,
Yeah,
stuff
but
like that.
so for Russ, right? He goes back home, plays in his hometown in LA. It's a dream come true, and the fans hate him
Yeah.
and use him as a way to like
Ridicule
trash
the
on
team,
him,
trash
ridicule
the
him the
team.
entire time.
Yeah.
So how is
But-
this an ideal situation for him if he had a fan base in Washington that really enjoyed him playing there? I mean, like, welcomed him with open arms. He led that team, which, by the way, I don't know if you watched that Wizards team. That roster might have been worse than this Lakers one right now. That was a horrible loss. I would say 4 good players on that team, and it was Daniel Gafford for the last month. He played good.
Yeah.
Rui Hachimura was very streaky, and then it was Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, and they carried that team to that play-in and then get the 8 seed, and that was crazy. And I think you go back to that team with the roster they've built now, right?
Yeah.
You've got Porzingis, you got
Porzingis,
Kuzma, you got people that can score the ball. You've got big men that can play. I think the biggest thing that the Wizards didn't have was a big man.
Give Russ an all-star level scorer and good role players. You see what he can do.
Right, and I think especially if you put him in the scenario that they put Spencer Dinwiddie, right, where you're putting him as a leader, as the main ball handler, the main facilitator. I think that team probably welcomes Russell Westbrook's mentality better than Spencer Dinwiddie's. I mean, they ridiculed Spencer Dinwiddie for his leadership styles, but I think Russell Westbrook has different leadership styles and knows how to get the best out of players with him. Granted, he does have his faults, right? We see the turnovers, we see the missed threes, we see the missed free throws, right? But I think you put him in a situation like that in Washington, I think he does better than he at least did this year in LA. But that's just where I'd like to see. But I think, the Lakers aren't going to get much back for him, even if you do trade him. I mean, that contract is so big that you'd be getting just filler players, and
at
you'd
this
have to be
point-
to a team that could buy him out.
I feel like if we can get maybe 2 just good role players, I'm not saying we're going to get a star for him because, he's getting old, end of his career. But if we can get some good role players, and if we keep AD, we get LeBron, we keep AD, and we give better role players, I still think that team will have a better chance of making the playoffs than this year.
I agree with that. I'm going to talk about my team I was disappointed in real quick, and then we're going to move on to some NFL stuff. I was pretty disappointed in the Cavs these last couple weeks. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
This was a team that, middle of the season was tied with, the Bucks, the Sixers record-wise. They were like a game or 2 out of second place, and now they're like teetering on the play-in right now.
Them losing Jared Allen was big, though.
Yeah, Jared Allen going out, but the moves they made, right? They made a move for
Levert.
Levert out of Indiana, right? And losing Ricky Rubio was huge for them as well. But still, it's tough to see that team slide the way they did, just based on how well they're playing.
Yeah.
I think next year they're going to be the team, like
yeah.
one of the teams to beat in the East, just because.
They have a lot of a potential to do great things.
The fact is that Garland's only going to improve from here, right? And
Sexton coming back.
Sexton's coming back. You'll probably get Ricky Rubio back. he's a free agent this upcoming offseason. He said he just wants to play with the Cavs. Like, he loved it there. And then you've got Mobley's just going to improve. Allen's just going to improve. That team is going to be scary. That team will be one of the teams to look out for next year. But I was a little bit disappointed in the finish for them this year. So let's move on. Let's go to some NFL. We talked about NBA for a while. We got about like 10 minutes or so left. So let's talk here. Let's do some NFL stuff. So free agency and offseason has been huge so far. We've seen a lot of moves, a lot of moving pieces. Madden is going to look very different next year.
Gonna be fun to play.
So I got a couple of these that I want to hear everyone's takes about. We got the best move in the offseason. So that'll be trade or free agency. We'll have the most improved team that you think is the team that is most improved. We'll have the best available free agents that you still see out there. And then just for fun, we'll see what you think the best fit is for Baker Mayfield now that the Browns have gone through some quarterback changes. So, JJ, let's start with you. Let's just go around. We'll do the best move. What do you think your best move was?
I think the best move was Dante. Like, even though Cooper Kupp, I mean, all credit to him, won the Triple Crown, like Dante, he's the best receiver in the league. So I think he was the player that just him makes the team he's now on that much better compared to anyone else.
Yeah, I got Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. I think
big Tyreek Hill guy.
I think putting a superstar wide receiver with Tua Tagovailoa. I think special things can happen in Miami. And yes, I am a Miami fan, so I'm a little biased. But
A little bit of bias there.
I think Tyreek will pair really good with Tua because, I mean, everyone's talking about, Tua just had a track team at Alabama. That's why he was so good. You have the fastest team in the NFL right now, so see what he can do. But, yeah, I agree with Devontae Adams. I mean, Derek Carr had no one to throw to, and he still got a playoff spot. So
I'm pretty sure there's a man by the name of Renfro out there that he did have to.
I think, again, that superstar wide receiver and
Darren
Devontae
Waller.
Adams going with Derek Carr will be a very good duo.
Yeah, I have Devontae to the Raiders as well. It improved the receiving core. They already made a playoff spot this year, so
Wait, actually, I actually want to change mine.
To Tyreek Hill.
Russell Wilson.
That's a sneaky
think-
good move.
I think the Broncos will be obviously a much better team, but with Russell Wilson and that young receiving core, I do agree with that.
Well, I mean, and their defense was really good. I mean, they added – I didn't think he was, like, that crazy of an add, but they did add Randy Gregory from the Cowboys. And, like, he's a solid player. So, and Patrick Surtain, I mean, for being a rookie –
He's going to be special.
He's nuts.
Dante? You already
yeah, I said
Devontae.
Self-explanatory.
I had two. I did think Tyreek Hill was a fantastic pickup, but I also do love the Khalil Mack move by the Chargers. Yeah. I put Tyreek Hill as one of mine too because of the deal they got for him was crazy. They fleeced
People can
the
say,
Chiefs.
Dolphins had no picks. They only gave up one first-rounder and a bunch of scrub picks. We still got a first-rounder next year. So, I mean, for the deal we got Tyreek for, fantastic.
And I think Khalil Mack makes that Charger defense so much scarier, especially when you're lined up against, Joey Bosa already, and then you've got Khalil Mack running the linebacker room over there. So I think that was one of my my best moves. Most improved team, JJ.
I feel like it could be hit or miss, but I think the Bengals improved the most, or just overall. I mean, they brought in some solid O-line pieces, and I mean, best case scenario, they went to the Super Bowl with Joe Burrow being the most sacked quarterback, this past season. So, they solidified the O-line. Didn't really change much other than that. They did, even though they did lose their main tight end in CJ to the Jets. I didn't feel like he was too big of a factor. I could obviously be wrong on that, but I think if best case scenario for all the trades that happened, I think the Bengals improved the most.
That's actually an interesting take. I hadn't really thought about that much, but I do agree that their O-line has improved a lot, and that was one of the big weaknesses that they had. Nico.
You already know what I'm going to say. I think the Miami Dolphins had the greatest
bias going in.
and the most improved roster this season. I'm gonna tell you why. Okay.
Okay, tell us why.
The Miami Dolphins struggled in a lot of places, that include the offensive line and the run game. We added 2 solid, good running backs in Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds. I love Chase Edmonds. He's going to be really good for us.
Yeah.
I do like him.
And we added the top left tackle in free agency in Terran Armstead. And, yes, people, like, he has some injuries in the past. But, I mean, a lot of this is ifs, too, with, like, health stuff. But with our upgraded offensive line, we also got Connor Williams, a good left guard from the Cowboys. Upgraded offensive line, upgraded running back core, and again, our receivers. We got Cedric Wilson from the Cowboys, good receiver. Obviously, got Tyreek Hill, and I mean, we got a lot of new coaching staff with Mike McDaniel. His offensive scheme, I think Miami Dolphins are gonna be something special this season.
I had the Miami Dolphins second, but first I had the Chargers. They have an elite top 10 quarterback in Justin Herbert. They have
Elite top 10. Wouldn't agree with that, but continue.
that's a discussion.
That's a discussion for another episode, I think. I think we got to unpack that, Dante.
But they have good weapons: Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. The defense was the thing that they had to.
They did upgrade a lot because they got a top corner from the Patriots.
Yeah,
too.
they had JC. They got JC Jackson, Khalil Mack. So I believe the Chargers had the.
That defense will definitely be scary.
Yeah.
This upcoming season.
I also had the Dolphins, but I do want to give a little shout out. I mean, you said everything I would say. It's like for the Dolphins, they revamped their entire offense basically. But I do want to give a little shout out. I had a Buffalo on my list. I think the Von Miller move was fantastic for them, but they also had some underrated signings. I didn't realize they got O.J. Howard out of Tampa Bay, the tight end. He was, that's like a top 10 pick for you right there, and they got him from Tampa Bay. He's still very young, got a lot of potential. I mean, not super young, but he's still got potential to improve. Jamison Crowder from the Jets, you can say all you want if you think he's bad. I think with Josh Allen throwing him balls, I think he'll be pretty good. And then Duke Johnson, getting him in free agency, I think that's good. Add him to the right back line.
I like Duke Johnson a lot. Ex-Miami Dolphin running back.
Ex-Cleveland Brown running back, yeah.
But, I mean, I think Duke Johnson, he did really good in his last couple games with the Dolphins. So I think him being with the Bills will be good.
And they added a couple offensive linemen, too. I do think Buffalo had an underrated offseason. It should be interesting. Jordan Phillips, they added him back. I mean, granted, he wasn't great last year. He didn't play in all the games, but for when he used to play in Buffalo, he was very, very good. Those were my picks for that. I think that, Buffalo and Miami both improved a lot. JJ, what are your best available free agents?
Right now?
Yeah, give me right now.
I think Jarvis and Odell. If Odell doesn't get hurt in the Super Bowl, he gets
Super Bowl.
I wouldn't say Super Bowl.
I think he catches another touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think he gets MVP. Honestly, I think Aaron Donald should have gotten it, but anyways, I think Odell. I don't think he gets like a top 10 wide receiver contract, but I think he gets a big contract.
I think he would. Think about it. A lot of people are saying OBJ like his past his prime and stuff, but you put him with a good quarterback and you show what he can do. So I think he would deserve like a top 10 receiver contract at somewhere if he didn't get hurt.
I just think he's not necessarily past his prime because he's still really good, and obviously we saw the huge difference between trying to catch a ball from Baker and trying to catch a ball from Matthew Stafford. My thing is, I think he, like you said, you put him with a good quarterback, but I feel like the difference with him and like some of the other best receivers in the league right now is a good quarterback makes him better, where he doesn't necessarily make
a bad quarterback look good.
Yeah, not necessarily like a terrible quarterback.
Yeah, I get what you're saying though.
Yeah.
I got a couple. Most of them are receivers, but I'll start with the non-receivers. I got J.C. Treader, center. I want the Dolphins to pick him up. Dolphins really need a center right now, but I think he's a really good available free agent. And then Tyrann Mathieu, obviously Dante wants to go to the Steelers, but I think obviously he's a great safety, and I think wherever he goes, he's going to do really good. But other receivers, I feel like Julio Jones is still out there, and then some older vets like Cole Beasley, T.Y. Hill, and A.J. Green. I think they find the right spot with a good quarterback. I still think they can do some special things.
Yeah, I have two to go on what Nico said. I have Tyrann Mathieu. I personally want him to come to Pittsburgh. I'm a Steelers fan. I saw there were talks about it, but I feel like we would have the best safety duo in the league. And then the other one that I'm surprised he's still out there is Stephon Gilmore.
I'm really surprised he's still out there.
Yeah. After, he took a year or two off because of the COVID. And, he was Defensive Player of the Year before he.
Yeah.
I am really shocked he's still there. Yeah.
That was my biggest one. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of receivers out there. I think Julio Jones, if healthy, is huge that he still hasn't been picked up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of receivers out there. I want the Packers to go get. Our wide receiver room is horrendous right now. And I think, if we draft a receiver, good, but I think we need to fill in with some vets. I think Jarvis would be a good pickup. I think Julio Jones would be a nice pickup if he's healthy. I also had some defensive players. I had Stephon Gilmore. I'm not sure why he's still out there. He's fantastic. I think even getting him on a lower deal. I know the Packers were looking at trading for him when they first announced the trade and didn't get him. But I also had Jason Pierre-Paul. I feel like, he's getting up there in age, and, he hasn't been producing at the same level he used to, but he's still a great veteran. I think if you get him for a lower deal, he could help someone's defense very much. So last but not least, we've got a Baker Mayfield fit. The Browns decided to go with Deshaun Watson, decided not to elect to keep Baker as the starting quarterback, whether you're upset about that or not, as a Browns fan. Now the question is, where does Baker go from here? Where does he fit in best? JJ, give us some teams that you think Baker fits in best with.
Some teams?
Give me like your one or two. Give me one or two.
I feel like he could be a solid backup. Not necessarily a solid backup, but like he could find a role as a backup at maybe.
You don't even think he'll start next season? You don't think he'll start for a team next season?
I feel like if he was going to be starting next season, he would already got his contract. Unless there's some draft trade that is like in the works right now, I don't see a team that has been like, oh, we want Baker, because if they wanted Baker, they would have went and got him by now. That's just what I think. I mean, he could go somewhere and like win the starting position, but of the places that like could be looking for a quarterback, they're like not interested in him. And I mean, that also could be just because the Browns, like, I mean, he was a number one overall pick, so like the Browns are gonna want something for him. But obviously with the them picking up Deshaun and other teams knowing that the relationship between Baker and the Browns isn't great, other teams have the upper hand in the trade talks where they're like, no, we're going to give you a third-round pick. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they know the Browns need to get rid of Baker.
Nico?
Yeah. Even though the Falcons do have a high draft pick and it might draft a quarterback, and they did get Marcus Mariota, I think he would be good with the Falcons. Because, I don't think Mariota can lead a Falcons team to the playoffs. Baker finished last season awful. People can say injuries, but a lot of his decisions weren't because of injuries. But I still think he's a good quarterback. I think he's going to start. I don't think he's –
Where do you think he goes, though?
The Falcons. I think he'd be a good fit for the Falcons just because I think the Falcons is a decent team. Again, I don't think Mariota can lead that decent team to playoff, but, Baker led – I'll say a pretty good Browns team to their first playoff appearance.
Yeah, and first playoff win in a long time.
When he's healthy, he's a good quarterback. So, I think if he gets his stuff together, he gets healthy, then I think the Falcons would be a good fit for him.
Yeah, I do, pointing out that he was playing on like an injured shoulder half the season. It's something to point out. Dante?
I have two places. I think the Giants. If I was general manager, my primary upgrade would be on O-line. So if they get that going, they have weapons, they have Saquon, their defense isn't bad. So I like to see him there. I do still think he's a starter, even though he's a Browns arrival.
I mean,
I don't believe in Daniel Jones.
oh yeah, no, I'd rather have Baker than Daniel Jones, but that's also not much to pick from in my opinion. Like,
I don't agree that Baker would be a backup, dude. I'm
just saying
where he goes, I mean, if it's a good fit, like, again, but he's gonna be the starter. He's a starting quarterback.
right. I was just saying I feel like he might end up as a backup just with like not necessarily commanding free agency. You get what I mean? So like he might not be able to find a spot outside of a spot on the second string.
Yeah.
Here's my take. And did you have another?
I was
team?
just gonna say the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think the Seahawks is a good spot to
be
land at. I think Drew
Yeah.
Lock is not the move for a starting quarterback. I do think that if the Seahawks were to get their way in with Baker, I mean, obviously though, I mean, in the Seahawks position, they're not in a win now position. So I don't know if you go for a quote unquote, pretty kind of established quarterback. You need someone a little younger to, kind of take the lead. But I do agree that I would like to see him in a Seattle jersey. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah.
JJ, you're gonna love my first pick here because I don't think if he goes to this team he'll be the starter. I think Tampa Bay would be an interesting spot for him to land in. I mean, Tom
That is the
Brady.
only spot I'd agree with that.
Tom Brady's been teasing retirement for years now. I think this might actually be his last year. If not, he's got 2 seasons left in him. If Tampa Bay was to go out, make Baker their backup for 2 seasons, and then by the time he's, well adjusted to this offense and in the system, he's already gotten older. He's been sitting under Tom Brady for 2 years, and then they're still in a win now scenario, right?
Yeah.
They don't take a year off like tanking to get a quarterback in the draft. They've got a quarterback behind them.
Yeah.
So that was my pick. The other one is the New York Jets. I think that would be an interesting fit. I'm not a huge believer in Zach Wilson.
Me either, but with him being that high of a pick, they don't move off of him this quickly.
Well, I don't think you move off him this quickly, but I think if Baker comes available for cheap, which the Browns might resort to if they can't find anything, I think you dive in on that. I think that, I would say Sam Darnold just was a great talent that just didn't, develop well in that Jets organization. They can't really develop talent that great, so why not take a guy like Baker who's already pretty developed? Just give him a chance. You could even you're going to be bad, right? So you could even take him on, rest him, make sure he gets his shoulder recovered, and then, throw him in when you get more weapons around you, and then, start, trying to compete for them, it'll be a wild card. But I know it'll be interesting nonetheless to see what they do. But there is definitely some stuff that the Browns have to look over at that Baker Mayfield stuff. So we'll see where that goes. Anything else you guys want to add NFL-wise?
Miami Dolphins will be in the playoffs this year.
Is that your hot take? Yeah, let's finish off. Let's finish off today's episode with a hot take from everyone, and then we can unpack that next episode.
Miami Dolphins playoffs.
Okay, so
Put in
Nico's
the books.
hot take is Miami Dolphins playoffs. Dante said something earlier about Justin Herbert being a top 10 quarterback, elite
I just
top
don't
10
know
quarterback.
I just don't know who you can put over him.
All right, well let's
Tua Tagovailoa.
I
Well,
don't think that's
let's-
that hot of a
let's
take.
let's unpack that next episode. We'll
I don't
talk
think
about our top 10
Herbert's-
quarterbacks.
Herbert being a top 10
We'll do
is that
top
hot
10
of a take.
quarterbacks next week. JJ, you got a hot take you want to finish us out on?
I think the Bucks repeat.
All right, we got to unpack that next episode. All right, so that's gonna do it. Wait, the Milwaukee Bucks?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Buccaneers.
bad,
I was
my
like,
bad, my bad.
because we were just talking about
No,
football, and I was like,
think-
first of
I
all,
don't think the
repeat.
Buccaneers-
It's been 2 seasons.
I don't think the
I do like that take, but we can unpack that later. If you're listening and you agree or strongly disagree with any of those hot takes, let us know. YouTube comment sections or tweet at us at Cork It Podcast. That's gonna do it for us right now. A bit of a longer episode, still getting some of the technical difficulties solved. I know JJ's cutting in and out a little bit from the microphone.
My bad, y'all.
My camera turned off halfway through, but we're gonna figure things out for you guys here as we get stuff moving. But that's gonna do it for all of us. We want to thank you for listening to the Cork It Podcast, and we'll see you next week.